All right, everybody, welcome to Unscripted One-on-One, and tonight I have another very special guest, my friend and former classmate. Do we call him classmate? Is that right? Anyway, former Cougar, Mr. Joe White. So, Joe, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your family, and we'll go from there.
Okay, I think I've watched all but one of your shows so far, so I've been very impressed by who you've had on. So I'm not sure if I can live up to those folks, but my introduction is, my name is Joe, and I have a wonderful wife, Erin, and 3 kids, Evan, Jared, and Kendall. And I live in Gahanna, and I went to school with Erin, and I'm a couple years older than him. So I have a couple questions I'll ask him a little bit later. Because I graduated well before you, so I want to find out some things before I graduated. So.
I've never been more scared on any of our podcasts. I've never been more scared. Joe and I were actually texting earlier today, and he mentioned questioning me, and I said, that's not how this works, and he said unscripted. So there you go. So before we get into anything else, I got to get this out there. I've told you privately, I'm going to tell the whole world. Because I think it'll be relevant maybe a little bit later. But one of the things that I will never forget is that, from the time that, I don't know, a few years ago when Austin, my son, started to, grow in his baseball career, you started to send me messages asking for his schedule. And in a minute, people will probably, if they don't already know your story, in a minute, that'll mean a whole lot more because it meant the world to me that, you, of all the people in the world, to ask about my son's schedule and how he was doing and always check in on him, man, that meant the absolute world to me, and I'll never forget it, and I've never forgotten it. And it says a lot about who you are, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on. So with that, the other thing I need to tell you, Aaron Reynolds was upset because he said he's your point guard, and I'm bringing you on. I said, hey, okay. So only Joe.
I've not seen Aaron for a long time.
Yeah, well, he wasn't real happy because he said, man, I'm his point guard. So and he said you saved him in a lot of fights. You and Rick got him out of a lot of scrapes.
Right.
So anyway,
that is true.
Moving on. Let's talk about, and I know you are so humble, and I know you don't want to talk about this, but I think I wanted people to hear. Can you just tell us, and you have 2 other kids, and I know you're just as proud of them, and I'm sure we can talk about them as well, but can you just tell us a little bit about Evan's journey? Because I don't know if it's an urban legend, so I need to find that out, because I might not be telling his story right from high school. But can you just tell us about Evan, his journey to, for those that don't know, well, I'll let you tell. You brag on your son. He's not my son. He's yours. You can brag on him.
Go ahead, because I'm not sure what you're going to say there. I'm not sure. How far back do you want me to go?
Well, so for those that don't know,
diaper?
If you want, yeah. I mean, we can go that far back. But no, Joe's son is the current starting first baseman for the Seattle Mariners, and played at Kentucky, and you can take it from there. But he is probably one of the top prospects in the major leagues right now. And he's got a lot of people in Ohio cheering for him. He's almost an adopted son for a lot of us, because we're just excited to see him do well, and that's because how much we like you as well. So I'll let you take it over from there. Tell us a little bit about Evan's journey, and we'll go from there.
Okay, I will try my best. Starting off, I guess I kind of just want to go back a little bit when he was younger, and he has had so many people that have helped him along the way and have been great coaches, great parents, great people around him to help him out. And if he needed somebody to drive him somewhere, or to stay at a hotel, or, you know how it is with your son playing baseball. It's like you can't just do it on your own, or with you and your wife, or, it takes a lot of people, and a lot of people bent over backwards to help him out. And honestly, when we first started out, all I wanted him to do was to love the game of baseball, be a good teammate, and enjoy the game, and be able to teach his kids the game. That's all kind of, that's where it starts. You don't really think when your kid's 8 or 9 years old, oh, he's going to be a professional. I'm sure a lot of parents, maybe they do.
You'd be surprised.
But we never thought that. It's like, Yeah, exactly. We just want him to be a good kid, a good ball player, and have fun and love the game. Because my family's a big baseball family, and that's kind of what we did a lot when we were younger. I know a lot more about baseball than I did basketball. So he's one of those kids that I never had to, and I didn't want to be a parent that said, you know what, we're going to go hit, we're going to go field, whatever. He basically would say, Dad, can we go do some extra fielding? Can we go do extra hitting? That's by far his passion. And he always loved it. So, little league, travel ball. I guess it started to get a little serious. Middle school baseball. It starts to get middle school travel ball.
Yeah.
Starts. You kind of at that point know. Okay, he's pretty serious about it. He wants to maybe play at the next level. So you kind of start thinking about it at that point. And then we were very fortunate. I never wanted to. I saw too many kids at a young age get burned out on baseball. Any sport, basketball, baseball, whatever it is. So I wanted him to be able to play multiple sports and just still enjoy the game and not go crazy. A lot of kids, I think, play 70, 80 games in the summer and they get sick of it by the time they're 14 or 15. They've had enough of it.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate. We found Gahanna teams. We found travel teams that the parents wanted to win. They wanted to get better, but they didn't. It wasn't number one. It wasn't the main thing. They wanted to have fun and get better at it, but it wasn't. They didn't care if they won 50 ball games or not. So we were very fortunate with that. I guess I'll skip ahead. High school baseball, Gahanna, great program, great friends, great time. The funny thing is, from a recruiting standpoint, it had changed so much. When you and I were in high school, the recruiting stuff has changed, and it starts so much early. When I was in school, basically it didn't start until you were maybe a junior at the earliest.
Yeah.
Usually it was your senior year before much of that went on. And I know you got recruited a lot, so I know you know what I'm talking about.
The demand for World Champions is really high in the '80s. A lot.
That's one of my questions.
Back to Evan.
So he actually verbal to Kent State at a pretty young age. I think he was a sophomore. So we love Kent State. We love the coach. And fortunately, I guess in the big picture, it worked out well. He left to go to Georgia. And if I'm going into too much detail, Aaron, just let me know. But
no, this is exactly what I was curious about.
Okay, good. We were at a regional tournament game, and we found out the Kent State coach was leaving for Georgia. And I didn't want to tell Evan about it until after the game. And fortunately, somehow he found out about it, but didn't really. He's got a pretty good head on his shoulders, and didn't really bother him. I think he knew shortly after. He's like, well, and recruiting wise, you probably shouldn't go to school because of a coach, but people do. And he definitely loved their coach and stuff. But when he found that out, he kind of opened it back up. And from our standpoint, it was kind of a huge concern because he had a decent scholarship. It was in Ohio. Money, we didn't have a lot of money, so it was like this is a really good situation. And kind of nervous after you open it back up because you're thinking, you just never know with your son or daughter. Right. Is anybody going to be interested? Is he going to have another opportunity? Fortunately, within probably 6 or 7 days, he had quite a few schools that were interested in him. And I didn't want to be the parent to squash his dream, but I'm also kind of one of those fathers that is realistic. And he was getting interest from bigger schools. And, from my mind, I'm thinking, well, that's great. But you hear a lot of these kids go to these big schools and end up not playing and coming home. So it's kind of like, I know a lot about baseball. I shouldn't say it like that. I know a decent amount about baseball, but there's a lot of good ball players out there. You don't want to say, I'm going to go to the SEC and go there and sit. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a lot of money. It's out of state. And is it worth doing? But we had a conversation one night, and I had about 20 questions for him. I think he was in Louisville in the tournament. And he just, he got an offer from Kentucky, and he wanted to do it that night. I said, well, we had about 3 or 4 visits planned in the Midwest. And I was like, well, let's at least go to these schools and, show them that respect and everything. But and that was his dream school. And, it'd be like you getting offered to North Carolina. It's like, how do you turn that down?
Right.
But from a trying to be the father that tries to teach my son, the right things and everything.
Yeah. I
had a bunch of questions for him thinking, well, probably not the right thing to do. And he had great answers for every single question. I got done with the conversation. I was like, I don't want to squelch his dream because, I feel like maybe I did that some myself, when I was growing up. I didn't want to do that to him. And I thought, you know what, he's got a great answer. He's got a good head on his shoulders. And, it was perfect for him. So he went to Kentucky, as you mentioned.
Yep.
and absolutely, they had a kid from Columbus that went there, from Dublin, that graduated or left being drafted the year before, and they had a first baseman that was a Golden Spikes winner before Evan left, but the year before Evan got there. And going to Kentucky, you're thinking, well, he may not see the field his freshman year. And they actually had their backup first baseman was coming back, so I thought, well, he might get in once in a while. But he had a great fall, and they named him the starter pretty quickly, and just had a great situation in Kentucky. It worked out well, and had met a lot of great people. I'm tired of talking, Aaron. I'm not sure what. Go ahead and ask me another question. I've not talked this much in years, so.
Oh, that's great. Honestly, it cleans it up for me, because now I've told a lot of lies in my history, because I was told that he was that Kentucky came to Gahanna to recruit or to watch a game, and I don't remember where I heard this, but they came to Gahanna to watch a game, and not Evan. But by the end of the game, they said, "Who's the kid playing first base?" And next thing you know, he was at Kentucky. So that clears that up for me. That was I will stop telling that erroneous story.
Well, I've never heard that. It may be true. My understanding is that they when it opened up, their hitting coach actually came to a game that was down in Louisville, I think, and saw him bat once. And I think Evan even got out, but it's like he liked what he saw.
Yep.
And to me, that's the amazing thing about the recruiters for those teams. It's like they see something in them, and they liked what they saw, and it worked out. We were so fortunate. I mean, going to Kentucky like that and being able to play right away, and the progression he made from year 1 to year 3 was just amazing, because he was, he's probably like 180 when he went to college, ended up being about 205 when he got done, and he just they treated him very well, and he did a great job. And the amazing thing about, he's a good ball player, obviously, but the thing that always amazed me about him was his head on his shoulders, because honestly, he did that for me, maybe his mother. I'm not even sure where it comes from, because he's always acted like about 3 or 4 years older than what he is.
Yeah.
Lot more, I probably had a bad temper. He was a lot more calmer. But he always, it's like he loved the game. He had a passion for it, and he was going to work as hard as he could. That's what's amazing about him, is he doesn't see the negative about stuff too much. He works and works, and just does anything he can, and then realizes, you know what, if I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. So it's kind of where it ended up. That was going to be
a question for you, and that you kind of answered it, was, and anybody that doesn't know Evan, and I've met him a handful of times. I got to see him again a couple times over during quarantine when we opened back up, and a lot of the major minor league guys were coming in and staying sharp when they didn't even know where they were going to go. I got to see him a few times there, and you were nice enough to bring him in my office the one time, and we just sat and talked, and I was blown away by this kid. And we could probably have a whole conversation of whether or not people have a reason to be arrogant, but this kid has just done so well, and he is on the list of hottest prospects. He's a rookie. He's coming up he signed a nice contract. I mean, he's got every reason to, and believe me, we see our share of guys that you're just like, and Evan's not that kid. He is so, you said it, he's got a great head on his shoulders. He's always respectful, kind, just, you wouldn't know. You would have no idea that he's got the future ahead of him and has all the success he's already had. You would never know it, ever. And I'm not just saying that for a podcast. You can ask my son, my family. I tell them all the time, he is special, and I mean that outside the white lines. He's really, really. You guys did an amazing job, and he got that from somebody. He wasn't just born, and maybe he was born with some of that, but that's taught. And I give you guys credit again for everything you did raising him, because he's special.
Well, I married very well, so we have wonderful wives that did most of the good stuff.
Right.
We gave him some bad stuff along the way, but they did the good stuff. So.
Well, I always say
it's funny because.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, I said 99.
It is funny because
of the time that goes to my wife. She gets the credit. No doubt. I know for sure where my kids got anything that was good.
Yeah, he was fortunate because I think with travel ball and high school ball and college ball, he was never like come out with these lists and different things, and he was never the top guy or the top 3 or 4 guys. And I don't think I tried to like hide that stuff from him or not. You know, it wasn't a big deal to him. It wasn't a big deal to me. Yeah. But it was like he was never the guy, and that honestly worked out great because he, you know, it made him, I think, work a little harder. And I don't think he ever had. Even we try to. I mean, to me, it's not an issue. You treat everybody the same with, you know, respect, and you try to treat people the way you want to be treated and stuff like that. So, but you do see a lot of ball players that just think they're amazing because they're a good baseball player, and that's a gift that God gave. It's like that doesn't make you special. I mean, it makes you a special baseball player maybe, but it doesn't make you a special person. So, yeah. But even though you try to teach that stuff, it's hard to do sometimes. But honestly, I'm much more proud of the person he is than the player he is. So, because he's a very nice person, which being my son surprises me a little bit. But.
I have a hard time agreeing with that one because that's not true at all. And so now let me go back and visit what I said at the beginning for those that may have just been tuning in. You know, imagine we just talked about having a son like that and asking somebody else about theirs. Is what you lead with, and sending messages asking about his high school schedule and things like that. So again, meant the world to me, still means the world to me that you would, you know, and care about how my kids were doing in their athletics. When you, again, much like Evan, you had every reason to be like, man, my kid's going D1, you know, he's going to be in the majors in no time, signed a contract, whatever. You've never, ever, ever treated me that way or treated, I'm sure, anyone else. So that's a credit to you.
I don't consider that being special. I just think that's just kind of the way it's supposed to be, the way it should be. So
yeah. Well, that makes you unique, Joe. I mean,
yes, it's not as common as it should be.
No, you're right. It makes you very unique in the days that we live in. I can tell you that for sure. So the urban legend, we've cleared that out. Tell me about your other.
Well, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't think it's true, but it could be. I don't know. I know you're not lying on purpose. Cool. I know that much.
It sounds really cool.
It is amazing. It is a good story.
You know, it's a really cool story, but no, he doesn't need that. He doesn't need an urban legend or any kind of other story to just turn on a Mariners game. If you like the West Coast, then just watch him play, watch how he interacts with his teammates, you know, keep your eyes on Evan, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about, no doubt. So,
can I ask my first question?
All right, your turn.
I've heard you know, I've heard all your podcasts so far, and I've not heard you mention your college nickname yet. I don't think anybody's mentioned your college nickname that everybody knew you by. Did you lose that right after college, or is it something that? Because I want to call you that right now, but I don't know if anybody knows that nickname or if that's a secret or.
No, you can.
Because I don't think I even knew your name in college.
Well, so true story.
By your nickname.
True story. I actually, I think it was my senior year, ran for student council. No, it was my junior year going into my senior year. So I ran for student council, vice president or something. I can't remember. And the ballots came out. It was probably like the election coming up in November, because there was some kind of controversy, and I don't remember what it was, but I didn't win. And I was like, well, whatever. I mean, it was almost a joke. It was almost a bet. Somebody's like, you know, you won't do this. And I'm like, all right, I'll run for it. So the next time we did it, I said, hey, do me a favor and put my nickname on the ballot. And then so they re-voted, and I ended up winning, but it was because nobody knew who I was. So I always whenever I run into people from the Naz, or if I'm back, you know, seeing Austin or something like that, yeah, I still hear the name, but no, I don't. It doesn't play as well in the corporate world. So no, I don't use my nickname too often. Yeah. So is that clear, that one?
That's clear.
Okay. All right. My turn.
I never had a cool nickname, so okay.
Yeah. All right. No, you and all right. Rick Burke. Price is Right. I assume you were on that trip, right?
I was not. That was the year before I got there. I actually went to Rio Grande for a year.
Okay.
And I was not there. So I've seen the video. He's told me the story. he had cool hair back then. He had the mullet going and everything, but
didn't we all?
I don't think I ever did.
I rocked a pretty good mullet my freshman year. Matter of fact, Chris Maston just sent some archived videotapes over the weekend. He had the old camcorder that you had on your shoulder, like the last week of school. And my kids got to see my awesome mullet from Mount Vernon. So that was exciting.
Oh my God.
So, all right. Well, anyway, so Joe's best friend, Rick Burke, who I'll have to have on the show and he can tell the story himself, but they go down there for a tournament. He ends up getting our prices right and winning a whole bunch of stuff. So very cool. So we'll get Rick on one of these times too, for sure. So
I can't wait to see that one.
It'll be fun. So, all right, tell me about your other two kids.
Jared is a junior at Otterbein. He loves music, loves playing guitar, loves singing. He's got a little band that they've got some songs on Spotify. He actually could have been a very good baseball player too, but he just didn't have the passion for it, didn't love it. Actually didn't like it very much at all, but he played through high school and was a decent little baseball player. But he loves music, just a good kid, a good-hearted kid. My daughter Kendall's a junior in high school. Her passion is volleyball right now. I think that's going to be her passion. I think she'll probably play at some level in college. I'm not sure. I don't know volleyball that well, for sure, but that's her passion. And then Erin, my wife, is a teacher's assistant at Gehanna, and she's recovering. She had endometrial cancer in the last 12 months or so. Have been very tough for her, and she's been amazing. So that's my family in a nutshell right now.
Yeah, and Erin, and again, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, because Evan actually. So again, this is urban legend, but I know for a fact she tore her one ACL or she tore up her knee, one year, rehabbed, played basketball like yourself, rehabbed, came back the next year, and didn't she tear? Was it the other leg or the same leg the next year?
I'm glad you put me on the spot like that.
I'm sorry.
I don't remember.
All right, we'll cut this.
She'll never watch this. It's okay. She was a year younger than me, so I was not in college, but as a good husband, I could remember all the story. But she definitely, my understanding, she definitely tore the one, got back and played, and then she hurt it, but she was able to to get around a little bit and play a little bit her senior year, but she was never quite the same. But and
Evan said he thought it was the same one. Because I always thought it was the other one. And I was like, I just felt so bad for it. It was the one year we had a rash of ACL tears at Mount Vernon. And the reason why I remember it specifically was Chris Maston had also torn his, and he was at Grant, and she was there. I remember we ran into her at Grant because she was also just coming out of surgery. That was a terrible year for knees at Mount Vernon.
Yeah, we had that old, they called it the tartan surface, I think they called it back then. That was just, it was fun to jump on, but it was not good for the old knees. So it was pretty bad. Luckily they replaced it after that. But.
Yeah. Well, Coach Veal calls that the house that I built. So that's what he told Austin.
There comes my next question.
He told Austin during the recruiting trip that it's the house that his father built. So I was sold right there. I'm like, where do we start? And when they built Ariel,
well, I've heard you say.
Go ahead.
I've heard you mention several times your intramural championships, and I of course was out of school by time, because I know when I was there, you definitely didn't win the basketball. So all my buddies won the basketball one. So
yeah.
So was that? Did you win it in basketball? I assume. Okay.
I did. I won it my senior year. It was a classic story from.
All by yourself?
I did all by myself. Played a game all by no. No, I won it with a bunch of freshmen. I was like, I got the #1 recruiting class that year, and I was the upperclassman, kind of solidified the roster. And no, I think I might have pulled in a few in football or some other random softball or something. I don't know, but yeah, I still keep the trophy from my senior year. That's not true. That's not true.
There was no trophy. Yeah.
No. All right.
So just one championship then.
Just the one in basketball. I had multiple. I was like Bo Jackson. Okay. I had multiple. I was a multiple sport athlete. but the big championship was basketball. So yeah.
Okay. All righty.
All right. So all right, your turn. Any question? Do you have a question?
That's it. All I had was those two. That's it.
Okay. All right.
I'm done. What's that? Yeah.
All right. So let's go back to a couple of big moments, and thank you, COVID, for this, but and I mean that sarcastically. A couple of big moments. So, well, first of all, take us to the night he was drafted, drafted by the Mariners. What was that like?
The night itself was amazing. I'm actually going to go back just a little bit prior to that, because that spring in Kentucky, you read and hear things about him, and it kind of started off in about a month before the draft. It was kind of like, well, he'll get drafted probably between the third and fifth round. And thinking that's awesome, that's great. And then it kind of kept sneaking up a little bit. Kept hearing, okay, maybe second round, maybe high in the second round. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's, of course, as a father, you're going out looking to see how much money.
That's right.
But you're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But then it was weird, because just the week preceding the draft, he had an advisor at the time, I call it, and basically he was getting told that he would go no later than like I think the Blue Jays had like 2 picks. It was like the 25th and 28th or something. But we were told that he would go no later than that. And you're sitting there thinking, how this kid from Gahanna,
right,
that it's like, because I've been a baseball follower all my life, and thinking just to get drafted is an amazing thing.
Absolutely. And
then to even be in the top 10 rounds, top 5 rounds, and you're talking about a first round draft pick, it's like, you see all these ball players think that's not possible.
Yeah.
So finally, the week before the draft, we probably had a good idea that he'd be drafted somewhere late in the first round, and then kept hearing different stories, like your Kentucky at Gahanna story. We heard different things, but didn't know what the truth was. And the nice thing is, we actually my brother-in-law Evan, my other son Jared, and myself, we went golfing that day, because I think Evan just kind of wanted to not think about it all day. Not that it's a negative thing to think about, but it's like, you sit there and do nothing, you're gonna waste the whole day. So we went golfing, had a good old time, got back, and we kind of had, our house isn't the biggest, so we tried to invite some of his Kentucky buddies came up, some of his Gahanna buddies came over, people that were really involved with his baseball career, Gahanna, whatever it was. So we had this place packed, and I think there was a camera crew from MLB Network and a camera crew from one of the local stations was here. Fortunately, my brother-in-law he's a communications, he's got a big title, I'm not sure, vice president, I think. And he's great at communicating with the media, and that's what he does for a living. So he basically took care of a lot of that stuff for us, which was awesome, because as you can tell from this, I'm not very good at communicating.
No,
he worked with all those folks, and he went and bought because we didn't know. So he went to some place and talked to the guy and said, if I can buy all these hats, so when he gets drafted, he can put on the correct hat.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't even thought of that. So I think he ended up getting about 8 hats. And so finally, we had a decent idea that Seattle might take him. And when the agent called and told us what the offer was going to be, he said what the whole offer was, and I said, after you mentioned the first number, I'm sold. You don't have to go any further for me. That's respectable.
Yeah.
And it was a culmination of a long time playing baseball, and a lot of practices, a lot of hard work, a lot of travel, a lot of time. But it was just such a great night, because everybody that really, not everybody, but a lot of people that were involved with him going, from being a high school baseball player to a professional were there, and it was just awesome to have him there. And it was just an amazing night. It's one of those things. I'm old and forgetful, but I don't think I'll ever forget that. Incredible.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And like you said, it takes a village to raise a ball player. It takes a village to raise your kids, but I feel like nowadays, especially, Definitely. It takes a village to raise a ball player, because especially when you're playing zone instead of man-to-man, when you got 3 kids and not 2, like you said, you got to be 4 places, and you just can't be there. And so you need those rides, or those parents, or somebody on Game Changer, or somebody texting you from the game saying, hey, he's struck out the side, or he's getting lit up, or whatever it might be. It takes that. So what a moment to celebrate that. And so then fast forward, and I promise I won't keep you on much longer. I promise.
I'm fine.
All right.
Keep me as long as you want.
Fast forward for me to COVID. I mean, opening day, you can't be there. And I know Seattle did a really cool thing with the cutouts. I saw a picture where they put the cutouts of your family in there, and that was very, very cool on their part. But what was that like? I mean, I know we were texting, before it started, and on top of everything else, he's got to go against Verlander, whoever, like the three of the top pitchers in the MLB. It's like, welcome to the show, kid, for your first game. Yeah. What was that like? I know you wanted to be there, but how was it to just sit and say, that is my son playing Major League Baseball right now on opening day?
It's really odd because honestly, I'm not sure if it has even set in yet, because, a lot of people ask me that question and I'm just like, oh, I've just watched him play baseball for so long. It just seems normal. And I know it's not normal. It's not, it's not real typical, but it's just kind of, watched him a lot on games at Kentucky, watched him in minor leagues on MILB app. And it just kind of seemed like that. It's weird to say it, but just like that seemed like that was his progression. And Seattle, honestly, sometimes you don't know why. It's like, may have he's having a tough year hitting this year. Like in the minors, he'd have some times where he'd struggle, but they stick with him and they love him for whatever reason. So they've been great to him. But it's been weird because it's like, it just seems normal. It seems like that's where he belongs. That's where he should be. The pandemic, I don't know. I felt worse the fact that he wasn't maybe going to get a chance to play this year. Because, he'd been, obviously he's ahead of where he probably should be, but he just want to get out there and play. And I was really, obviously a lot of people have a lot worse for other issues and different issues. And, obviously, health issues are much more important than this.
Sure.
But for him to get a chance to play was more important than us going out there and seeing him. Obviously, we'd love to go out and see him play and see his game. And hopefully we can do that, hopefully next year. But it really wasn't, we missed it and everything, but honestly, just the chance he's playing baseball was good enough for me. I mean, it really wasn't that big of a deal for me.
Yeah.
But it's going to be awesome when we're able to go out there again. It's going to be fun because we went out there when we drafted. They sent us out there, and they introduced him as a number one pick. And just being at the stadium and being out in Seattle, they treated us so nicely. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I even answered your question, but I rambled.
No, absolutely. That's exactly what I was wondering. And then you'll hopefully be able to see him at Progressive Field, and when he comes to Ohio, you'll be able to. It's a much shorter trip than Seattle, but I'm sure you guys will make that journey. That I just can't imagine. And like you said, I think sometimes we just, I think especially for dads that are at all the games, and moms too, that are at all the games, you just kind of, what I mean? Like, and you probably do this, I would think, watching his games. You said he's a rookie. I mean, and again, his first weekend, he had to face three of the best pitchers in the major league. So I can't imagine there's a lot of people that are expecting him to be hitting 400. He's going through what rookies go through, but I know he's had some great moments too. And you can tell social media wise, they love him. And because I see a lot of him, they feature him a lot, and why wouldn't you? He's a great kid, and that's a kid you want to be the face of your franchise. But when you watch the game, are you still able to pick up, like, I know when I watch Austin pitch, if I see something, I've watched him enough that I'm not that guy that runs over the dugout and tells the coach to tell him to tell, that kind of thing. But, maybe after the game, you're breaking it down or you're talking about it, or, maybe he asks you, Dad, are you seeing anything? Or do you guys, like, can you see, or you're almost like his own hitting coach?
Well, honestly, I feel like I know enough baseball to be good to about 8th or 9th grade. Yeah. And that's kind of my limit. It's like, but even your son, you see him enough to know, okay, there's certain things that maybe, you can mention it to him. But honestly, it's funny because we hardly ever talk about baseball. It's almost just what you doing at home, how's work going. It's like, and I never bring up baseball. If he brings it up first, if he's only asked like twice, do you see anything? I think I mentioned 2 little things, and as soon as I said them, he's like, yeah, I've been working on that. It's like, it's like I know his swing, I know his, his body movements, his different things. So that I can help with if he asks. But honestly, I never bring up baseball unless he brings it up first, because he's at a level that I can't comprehend. And the other day he said something about not being able to hit, and I said, well, I can hit a kid maybe that throws about 80 with no movement.
Yeah.
And he's facing guys, 95 with great movement. So it's a totally different game. So, you can do everything just about right, but they throw the perfect pitch and it's just, you're out of luck. So, but we hardly ever talk about baseball. It's kind of funny because I think a lot of people think that we sit and talk a lot about baseball, but we really don't talk much about it at all. He just wants to hear, I think it's just a nice break just away from baseball, just to hear what's going on with the family and what's going on with the house and what we're doing. And
yeah,
so that's kind of the way I treat it. Unless he asks first, I'm not going to mention it.
That's great. I mean,
I'm always afraid, honestly. I'm always afraid of messing them up too. It's right. Like if I say something that I think I see this, I know everything. And then he goes, 0 for 10 next. It's like, thanks, Dad. That helped a lot. My bad.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Luckily, I don't know a thing about pitching, so I'm not much help to Austin at all. I mean, I can just tell and sense things watching him, but I'm zero help. So that's probably a good thing.
But you've seen him enough to know that if there's something but you see him enough if there's something totally out of kilter, he's opened up too early or whatever it is, you know enough to see that and to say something to him. So that's always nice.
Yeah. Well, Joe, I appreciate you coming on and talking about Evan. I know there's this is going to be really, really popular on the Facebook side, I think, because we got a lot of friends that, Mount Vernon is not very big and it's a small community, but it's a community that all still follow and care about each other. And I know a lot of people were very excited for you, your family. You and Aaron are just two incredible people, and we all have great memories of the two of you. And so we almost, like I said, feel like he's one of our adopted sons, and I know there's a lot of people cheering for Evan, and I know I don't know him very well, but we're really proud of him. It sounds weird, but I'm proud of you and the son that you raised. He's an amazing kid, and I don't know your other two kids, but I can't imagine they're any different. It's an honor to call you friend, man. And I could just go on and ramble on and on about, like I've said now twice, just how much it meant to me that you cared about my kid. And I know there's a lot of people who find all this very, very interesting. And hopefully we got a lot of Evan White fans for anybody that hears this.
I appreciate you asking me, because I watching your podcast, and the people you have on have a passion, and they're amazing people. And after watching this, I was like, why is Aaron asking me? And then, but I was like, you know what? If, maybe there's something out there that somebody can listen to. If it's a young dad or a kid that loves baseball, and they just, as a dad, don't put too much pressure on your kid. Don't worry about the baseball scholarship. Just have fun, enjoy it, play hard, be a great teammate. That's the only thing I really told my kid, but told Evan and Jared both, was be a great teammate and play hard. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have bad days, but be a good teammate is the main thing. That's why the main thing about Evan I like is watching his teammates. When he's been struggling a lot this year, but when he does something good, you can tell they're very excited for him personally, because I think they like him. They generally like him, which to me makes me feel so good. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, and it's easy to know.
Thank you for asking me. I really appreciate it.
Oh no, and for the crowd that I know that this is one of the more uncomfortable things that you had to do, and I appreciate you stepping outside your comfort zone to come on, and that humility that you have is again something that you can't teach, and I know that Evan, and I'm sure your other children, got that from you and Aaron, and that's going to take him a very, very long way, regardless of if he hits 400 or 150 or wherever he may land. That's going to go a long way, and you see it on the field. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you stepping out of your comfort zone and being on.
All right. Thanks, Aaron. I appreciate it.
All right, man. We will talk.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Joe. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Aaron. All righty. Bye.